Okay, so from the beginning, we were designing a product that was going to be better than what you're using now, which means it needs to be super reliable. And we put a lot of effort into materials choice and construction methods to make sure that even though this is an inflatable product, it's highly unlikely that you're ever going to have an air leak, especially naturally occurring. But it is a construction site, and we recognize that things happen and sharp objects exist in construction sites, so there's a chance that you might have problems. It's usually not a catastrophic type of leak, but it could be a slow leak. And if airing the thing up every couple of days isn't going to suffice and you need to actually do a field repair or a replacement, then this is how you're going to do it. This was always a part of our design concept, and it works quite well. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. The first step in demonstrating that is to have a leak. We're going to have a really big leak. We're going to take our air out here, let it drain completely. Now, if you remember back to the topper section, I made a big point of showing you the white loops that we then threaded the foam core through. And that was to prevent, in this case, I don't know why I would have to do this, air this down, but if I did, this inner tube is just staying here, waiting for us. In some of our earlier versions, before we figured this out, that bladder would drop, we'd have to pull it out, re-roll it, reinstall it. It's very annoying. I'm doing a lot of talking right now because I'm waiting for the air to leave. But this is important because even though it's being held up here, those loops are elastic and the foam is soft. So strong enough of a bond to keep it up there when we want it to, but just weak enough so that when I give it a nice amount of pressure, I can pull it free of those bonds, pull it out, and do my field repair. So that's what we're going to do now. I open up my access zipper. I see my bladder waiting here for me, okay? Right? No more air, very little anyway. And now I'm just going to put some steady pressure. And it just released. So now I'm going to be able to pull this thing down. Right? And here's my foam core separated from the straps above, okay? Now I'm going to go over here down at the bottom and I am going to take off this ring, remove the valve itself. Now I'm going to punch this through and remove it. Okay, so now we're back to a raw bladder. I want you to notice that this is still intact, okay? And with enough negative pressure, we all know that even though we have a slight gap up there at this moment, that's still a very small gap, and with the right amount of negative pressure, you're still well within spec and you're gonna have the right amount of negative, okay? So, we've decided we're gonna replace as opposed to repair. It's up to you. In the field, you do what makes sense for your situation. So just like the original setup, we're gonna have to come back to this and get everything laid out so that we can re-roll it. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to reattach that foam core to the topper until this whole system comes down. That won't stop it from working during the process though. We're still going to install a foam core because it just makes it easier to roll up. Okay, so like before, I'm going to fold this side forward over first, and I'm going to fold this side over to the valve, again, just like we did before. Okay, and then we're going to do it this way. I mentioned in the previous video that you can use Scotch tape, gift wrapping tape, that type of thing, to make this process a little bit easier if you're doing it solo. I don't have too much of a problem with it, but some people have found that that makes it a little easier. You can do that if you like. Okay. Now, just like before, I'm going to roll this thing up. Make sure I keep this rough dimension as I do it. About a third the size it started as, because we're folding it into thirds. Making sure that the foam core sticks out of either side. And just like when we did the initial setup, you don't actually need to roll the whole thing up, okay? That's about enough right there, okay? Now, we're gonna come over here to our empty chamber, and we're gonna set this on the ground so we can work. And we're gonna put this back in here. Okay, punch it through the hole just like before. And put our ring on. Okay, that part's done. Now, we're gonna go ahead and take our bladder, put it up inside the hole here, and you're gonna require a little two-handed work. You're gonna hold this into position, give it a little bit of a tug. You want it kind of tugging on the bottom, just a little bit. Fire it up, and you're gonna watch this thing climb all the way up into position. You see it going all the way up. Okay, back in position. I'm gonna close that off, finish airing it off. We're good to go. You've now done a field repair. I want to bring you back up to the top so that you can see full containment is restored. The small gap during the process, again, if you're running enough negative air, will not be a problem. You're good to go. Back in business.